Okay, following on from the last videos, as I said, we're going to actually move away from doing a presentation kind of tutorial, and we're actually going to move into making documents in CSS, so I can actually show you how it works. I'm going to start off slow, so the first few lessons are going to be basic CSS. This is how you understand and use the syntax in a very simplified way, and then hopefully through the lessons we're going to increase our level of knowledge to the most advanced type of CSS you can have. What I've done to help us then is to set up a HTML page and a CSS page in Dreamweaver. I tend not to use Dreamweaver because I've noticed it can create some errors, and it isn't the WYSIWYG application it says it is. And so what I tend to do is just literally make a HTML document and then save it, and then go to a text editing application that recognizes HTML. This is BB Edit. Where is it? BB Edit. There you go. This is BB Edit, and it, as you see, it recognizes and colors HTML terms. I've also added the CSS document in there. This is just for this lesson. I tend to use another application which is CSS Edit to do that, and I'll show you that in another lesson. Okay, so what I do is I'm going to I should explain, as I've actually attached, this is the linking system for an external style sheet. I tend to try and do all my style sheets externally, and for these tests I'm going to show you now, I will use external style sheets, which that basically means it's a separate document which has a linking system which then styles everything inside your body based on the selectors and the tag variations, whether it's a HTML term, a class tag or an ID tag. Okay, I'll explain all this as we do some. I will, after this tutorial, just do a quick look at the other two types of styling. Basically these being inline and internal, if you can remember the videos. I tend not to use them, especially the internal styling sheet, but there are advantages and uses for these types of style sheets, and I'll actually show you how they're written, just so you can understand the syntax and the way they work. Okay, we're going to get started though. What happens in HTML documents is you use certain terms which are defining elements of the coding. For instance, this is the body, so it basically sets up the body area on your web page, and it's a known HTML term. There's several hundreds of different terms you can use. Well, hundreds, I won't say hundreds, but there's several you can use for styling. For instance, another example is P, which stands for paragraph, and that's a known HTML term. So you can define styles in your style sheet using these terms instead of creating what's known as a class selector or a ID selector. So what I'm going to do is show you how, for instance, we can colour the background. I've actually opened it already inside. Let's just refresh that because I've named it CS Basic. I'm going to make the colour a different colour to white, which is the default, so we can see how we can actually set up the colouring of a web page. Okay, I'm going to go back to BB Edit. What we do is nothing here. We've already got the tag set up, which is the HTML term. So what we need to do is just literally go to our CSS document and type in the term body. Okay, as soon as we've done that, I'm just going to open and close the curly brackets, which I tend to do all the time, and then tab in slightly. I tend to nest things. Saying that, whilst I'm talking about this, some people do their CSS code like so, and they can carry on coding all the way down the line like this. I tend to find that's problematic because you can have quite an extensive line of code for different kinds of styling, and so it gets a bit confusing. So I tend to do things nested in a kind of a sequential way down the page. Makes it a lot easier to see what you're doing. Anyway, next thing we do is, because we've already set up the body, like I said, it's a HTML term, I just want to colour the background, and so what we do is we use the term background, and this is auto completing, background colour, like so. And what I'm going to do is just choose a known term. I think grey you can add. Is that spelling how you spell grey? I think it may be grey the American way, I'm not sure. Okay, save that. And if I go back to there and then change that, you notice it changes your background grey. Okay, nothing done in the HTML at all. There's no coding apart from what's set up in Dreamweaver, and that's because what it's doing is it's relating to that term there, body, which is necessary for the HTML, and so the styling automatically recognizes that term body because there's no prefixes, and it sets the background color to grey. Okay, what I'm going to do now is to show you how you can do a background color on some div tags, okay, inside the HTML, so you can see how you can do the different types of coding. So what we do is just going to write in div. I'm going to create a class tag. Class, you just write class equals, let's say box, like so. I'm just going to put this is some text for the box. Okay, that's all I'm going to do. Close the tag, like so. Because it's a class tag, what I'm going to, if you remember from the previous videos, a class tag is something that's associated with more than one object. So this is two objects, so you can include a class tag. Okay, what I'm going to do now is make another div. Div ID tag, which is like that, and then call that, I can call that box as well. It's a bit confusing sometimes if you start doing that, but because it's an ID, it's seen as a different syntax variable than the class. Okay, actually I'm going to make your life easier. I'm going to call it box ID. Okay, so you understand what the difference is. This is some more text for an ID box. Okay, and what we're going to do is show you how this works in the structure of syntax for the CSS. So I've saved that. What we have now is the body, which we've already done, which is grey, and then we have two boxes set up to have a class tag associated with them called box. So what's going to happen is these two divs are going to be coloured the same, and then we've got another one which is an individual ID, which means that it can only be applied to one object, and it's going to be coloured differently because it has its own unique name, ID name. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you what that looks like quickly inside Safari. Nothing, it's just a series of boxes, well, some divs actually. You can't even see anything of how they're structured, but it is a div. Okay, when I coloured it, these will actually coloured change, but you won't actually see the boxes until I start positioning them. So what I'm going to do is go back to here, my CSS, and then type in, this is how you write the syntax for a class. You just put dot, and then you can put box as the term was. I'm just going to open and close the selector, and then we're just going to do what we did before, which is just type in background color, and let's make it I'm going to make these yellow. I'm using these terms, these color terms, because CSS can recognize specific colors because of their names, like blue, yellow, red, grey, black, white, etc. You can't put Prussian blue, it's not going to recognize that at all. So what you have to do is pick the not the Pantone, the hexadecimal for the color and add it there. I could write in kind of the standard color hexadecimal value, but you'd have to find it for yellow. So if you're in a rush, you can actually type in known colored words, which is the basic colors. So if I save that, you'll notice the top two should turn yellow. There you go. Alright, because it's not been given dimensions yet as well, you'll notice that the box stretches the entire size of the page. Okay, so we've got to adjust that in a minute, but you'll notice that they are yellow and the bottom one isn't. Okay, all I've done is created one selector to create a background color, just to make my life easier, because I don't want to keep typing too much. I'm just going to copy that, paste that, and you remember it was an ID tag, so what I've got to do is select the period point and change it to a hash, and then if you remember it's underscore ID for that one. Did I put it as a, oops, did I put it as a uppercase? Yeah, you have to be very careful of text casing. Okay, so it's box ID, If I save that, you'll notice it'll be the same now on the bottom one. Yeah, all three. But if I wanted to change that one to, let's say white, you just type in white, save it. Go back to there. You notice the bottom one becomes white. That's because that's an ID and these are two classes. Okay. All I've done is basically made two definitions in the selectors, but there's three objects. Okay. So that's how you have to understand the difference between a class tag and an ID tag. Okay. What I'm going to do though is to go a little bit more complicated in the next video. But as I said, I'm going to stop this and put a little divider in and then show you how to do other inline and internal style sheets. Okay. So what I have now is I've gone back to my HTML document, and just to show you can see the difference, I'm just going to move a little bit down. That won't show in HTML, the separation line, but I'm just doing it in the coding so you can see. If I create another div and I want to style the text to be bold, for instance, no, let's change the font family. You'll notice if I go to here, it's in Times because that's the default font. What I want to do is make it Arial. What you do is, this is inline like I said, use style, type in style equals, and then you just type in the actual term you want to change. For instance, font family, and then you put the correct syntax, Arial, Helvetica, and sans serif, and close it like you normally do, but it's all contained on the actual piece of HTML coding. It's not in a style sheet internally or on a separate sheet, it's actually inline, that's why it's called inline. Okay, this is some inline styling text. So save that, close the div. Right, so what we do is to save that, keep my fingers crossed. Okay, and what you should notice is there's another one, and it's all in Arial. Okay, that's because it's been styled via inline styling, which is this. Okay, now what I'm going to do is show you some internal. So what we're going to do now is do the opposite of external, which is internal. This basically does the same function as what we've got here, which is to have different types of CSS coding, but it actually has it inside the head section of your document. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to create another div, and let's just do another div. I'm going to give it a class, no, an ID again, because I'm just going to do one for this example. Okay, and I'm going to call it text size, like so. And I'm going to close that, and then this is some larger text. Close that. As you see at the moment, there is no change in the size. Okay, and what we've got to do is actually make the ID selector inside the CSS. We could normally do it in the external one here, but I'm going to show you how to do it in the internal one. So it's basically you type in style and then type equals I think it's text stroke CSS, and then you do the close like so, and then you do the style like so. Okay, that doesn't do anything, it's just indicating that we're going to have some style sheets elements in between these two tags. So what I do now is I'm just going to do my nesting thing I always do, and then I'm going to apply the ID, which is literally put a hash and then put the text size code in, and then do the open and closed tagging like I do. Nest that again because I like keeping it clean. Oops, like so. And what we're going to do is put font, it says there's font size, and we're going to close it, say let's make it 24 pixels just to show an extreme example. Okay, now what I'm going to do is literally save that. I'm hoping this syntax is correct. If it's not, then it won't look. Yeah, there you go. It's bigger. Okay, because that's using an internal style sheet. Okay, and it's just exactly the same as we would do with any other style sheet. You just basically build it up. So for instance, if I copy, I haven't got it. Yeah, if I copy, no, I won't. If I put in, say for instance, I want the font to be white, I can just put color white, like so. If I make the font family, so if I just do font family, oops, Arial, Helvetica, and sans serif like before. Yeah, what that's going to do is add 3 different styles to that one element. Okay, like so. Alright, so this is how you do the 3 different types of syntaxing and programming for CSS. We've got our inline, which is that one. We've got our internal, which basically combines the selector option there and the styling there. And we also have our external, which is the link to an associated file for CSS, and the coding inside the actual file that's linked to the HTML. Okay, so that's the 3 types. What I'm going to do next lesson is to extend this and show you how to modify some of the properties to make your elements work a little bit better and style better.